Welcome to another edition of Discover the Joy, the Purdy podcast. I have here with me Christian Miller, 18-year-old track and field phenom. Wait until you hear about all of his accolades, recent accolades. And what I am really excited about is that mom and dad are here. This is Tori, this is Pat. So not only are we going to talk to Christian and find out how in the world he got to where he is, but we're going to talk to mom and dad. How do you raise something like that? That's for all the parents out there who want to know that secret. So I'm excited about this. Christian, 18 years old, you recently graduated from Creekside High School, just here in St. Johns County, Florida. 18,000 followers on Instagram. You skipped college for now. As of July 26th, you went pro in track and field. This is a big deal, but can you, for those of us who are not totally enveloped in the track and field world, what does it mean going pro? Is this like your full-time job now?
So I said going pro, it is basically like it's my full-time job now. I turned pro, like many people saw, I've signed with Oakley and I signed with Puma. So those will be helping me throughout the process, but of course going around the world and traveling and racing in different meets like the Diamond Leagues or different races in places like Tokyo or London or things like that. And then every year you're always training for that one specific meet, and this year will be the World Championship. So I'll be training throughout most of the year, going to the outdoor season, coming back faster than I did last year and gearing into the World Championship.
He says it like it's no big deal. You know, London, Japan, you know, those places. Did I miss any? This is, I mean, I think it's a big deal. I mean, mom, dad, what do you think about all this? I mean, I know you blink and they grow up, but this is, how do you feel about all of this fame and now fortune?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah, I think we're just still taking it in at this point. Yeah, like it's a learning process for all of us. So I think both of us are still trying to figure it out. So
Definitely
super excited. Yeah.
Super excited for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did we get to this point? At what point did you know that you wanted to run, Christian?
That's probably going to be, I say we take it back to when I was about 8 or 9. Because, you know, they were putting me through all different types of sports, so.
To try everything out.
Yeah, and then basketball, football, track was one of them, lacrosse for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm.
And
you gotta see what sticks, you know?
Right.
So throw everything out.
Lacrosse.
Hand-eye coordination, right?
Right, yeah.
There you go.
And then, so I was going through all of them, and football and track are the ones I kind of stuck with. But I felt like in track, I had this really strong love for it, and I had this like strong want to continue to get better. So I went out there, and it was probably one of the slowest my coach has ever seen. But after seeing
He told you that?
That's what I looked at it as. Because when you have like everybody going through the rep and everyone's finished, and then you look back and I'm still coming around the corner trying to finish up, then
Dang.
yeah.
Including his sister. His sister was already
Your
done.
sister beat you?
Yes.
I think that made it worse. Because she was actually like really fast, like super fast. And he could never even touch her. Wow. That's how quick she was, yes.
Yeah. So then from there, I had there's a really strong want to continue to get better. So I would be looking at different videos, watching like videos of Usain Bolt running and things like that. And after practice, I'd be found a lot of times on the side of the house going through different mechanic drills, trying to get my mechanics down, pulling the sled that I probably wasn't allowed to pull, but got it out there somehow and just started pulling it around. So just doing certain things like that, I just saw that I had this really strong love and want to continue to get better in my sport, and that continued to carry me through my elementary school years, through middle school, and then throughout high school, and that got me to where I'm at now.
So how do you go from being so slow and seeing that you're so slow, which can be discouraging, especially for a kid that young?
Yeah.
You know, most kids be like, oh, forget it, I didn't want to run anyway. So how did you get better? Which is going to help all these young people that want to be where you are. How did you get better?
I said the best way I got better was just staying consistent in what I do, no matter what the circumstance was. So even though every year I'd be going out to a district meet or a national meet, and I'd be coming in 15th, 20th place, I kept looking at it and trying to come back every single year and continue to get better and better and better. And I feel like that mentality of never giving up and always continuing to go out and try to get as better and as fast as you can really carries a lot of people through whatever, even if it's through normal life, work, and some people in other sports like football, basketball. You know, in football, if you have a bad game, you can't let that discourage you. You have to go out and continue to get better and learn from your mistakes and move on. Same in basketball. If you're not hitting your shots in a game, you have to go back, see what you did wrong, see what you should have done better, and come back and just improve on it. So I feel like just having the mentality of just never giving up and always giving 110% is really important.
And some of that is just a natural drive. Some of that comes from parents who are right there. I mean, it had to, and I'm just thinking from my perspective as a parent, it had to have been hard to watch. You know that he loves to run,
Yeah.
Right.
but then you see him the last one coming in.
Right.
So, what did you do? You always encourage, but finding the right words. What did you say? What did you do?
Well, I always tell the story. One thing about kids, or kids that are great or athletes that are great, you never have to force them to do anything. That's the biggest thing. And he talks about the time when he was on the side of the house, kind of pulling the sled and doing things. I just remember that first day of practice when, he said he came in last. I mean, basically, he was running with his football buddies, and they were the ones that kind of encouraged him to come out there. So, of course, they were a little bit older, a little bit more mature than he was for his age. So, of course, they were a little bit stronger and faster. So they beat him, and I came home, I said to myself, oh my gosh, he's going to be devastated. He's not going to run track. I was like preparing for it. I said, okay, I'm going to come home and he's going to tell me, he's like, Dad, I'm done with this. This is not for me. And I pull in the driveway and he's like on the side of the house, like practicing. And I come in the house, I told Tori, I said, did you tell him to go out there? She was like, no. She was like, matter of fact, she's like, I didn't even know he was out there. And then he comes in the house and he's like, he said, Dad, what do I need to do to get better? And when he said that, I'm like, okay. And I knew then he was going to be good. I didn't know if he was going to be good at track, but I knew he was going to be good at something because that's the one trait that all great athletes have. They're self-motivated and they want to get better. They want to compete. So, we just started, I had a talk with him. I kind of told him, at that time, I was helping to coach as well with his head coach, Ricky Fields. But we really, at that age, we focused on mechanics. So anything that we could correct with his sprinting mechanics, that's what we had him work on. And, the thing about Christian, he wanted to get better so bad. Some kids, you tell them, hey, work on this, do this, and, they'd be like, okay, he'll do it a little bit, and that's it. But he was like a fanatic with it. He would work with it he'd work on it at home. He'd go to practice. He would work on it. He was not one to rush through the warm-up drills. He was trying to get better with everything that he did. And so I told him, as far as coming in last, I said, hey, you can't. I said, you're not going to beat the fastest guy the first day. So, pick them off one by one. Find the next slowest one and beat him first. You know what I'm saying to myself? Like, I'm just coming up with stuff. And that's what he did. And it's crazy. Like, once he beat that guy, it was like, okay, he had motivation. And it was like slowly but surely, as the seasons kind of went on, he would, beat another one. And the next thing you know, he went from being the last guy to almost second, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
And a lot of sacrifices. I'm just thinking about soccer and all these other sports that parents are running their kids around to.
Right.
At dark 30 in the morning, you're like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
skip this one.
The track is definitely a special animal.
I was gonna say, so
track.
how much did that go into it as a parent? Because you,
Yeah.
if he's dedicated, that means you have to be
Absolutely.
also.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? What does that look
So
like?
I mean, for him, because he would do like track and football sometimes at the same time.
What?
So
Yeah, he did.
like
Yeah.
he'd have, track was always 3 days a week: Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturday mornings. So we just knew it'd be like 2 hours. He would coach. So sometimes I would sit out and watch them, but I didn't have to stay out the whole time because he was there. But I think the thing for us were the track meets.
Yes, they were
Like
long.
They're all day long.
Right.
I know.
Right.
all day. Yeah. So, and for me, like I'm one of those moms where I always want him to be prepared for everything.
Yeah.
So I'm the one at the track meet with like anything you can think of, like plastic knives, forks, food, cold towels, like whatever. So that's me. That's okay. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna be prepared. So if you need anything, I'm here.
I know.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I know exactly what
Right.
you mean. But it paid off. It obviously paid off. Christian, I brought my notes because I wanted to get it right. So make sure that I got this right. High school senior, your 100-meter dash in April made you the #1 on the 2024 World Athletics list. You placed 5th at the Olympic trials in Oregon. They gave you a chance to go to the Paris Olympics. You didn't go. We'll talk about that later. You were named 2024 Gatorade's National Player of the Year. You are currently the U20 runner under 20 years old. You are the national record holder in the 100-meter dash. What would you say is your greatest accomplishment? There's so many. Those are just the most recent ones. This goes back years. So what is your biggest accomplishment, do you think?
I feel like probably from this year, one of my biggest ones was probably the first time I broke 9, because there's a lot of, in high school, kids are always getting a lot faster, and running low 10s, like 10-1s, 10-2s, 10-0s, you see that a lot. And so like even if you date back like years back, you see a lot of people running those 10 flats, those 10-0s, but you rarely see someone go out there and actually break the 10-second barrier. And especially in the first time that I broke it, I didn't just run a 9.99 or a 9.98. I ran a 9.93, and coming from just running 10-0s and 10-0s and everybody assuming that I would follow the same path that some high schoolers will follow, they see where they run a really fast time one year and then they come back and they can't match it. Well, then my third 100 of the year running a 9, that really kind of stunned everyone and said, whoa, this guy's he's really legit. So I feel like that was sort of the accomplishment that really stuck my name, not just like nationally, but globally as well.
So I'm going to explain this to our viewers and listeners. So Christian ran the 100-meter dash in 9.93 seconds. The world record is 9.59 seconds, set by Usain Bolt. You mentioned him, from Jamaica, 2009 at the World Championship in Berlin, Germany. So 9.93, you, 9.58, him. So we're talking, now I do words, not math, but I believe we're talking about a difference of 3.5 tenths of a second. Can you please explain, to the average person, hey, that's tenths of a second, you can outdo that. How hard is it to shave off that much time? Tenths of a second, really? Explain that.
Yeah, I'd say definitely in the 100, shaving off those couple of milliseconds is probably one of the hardest things in track and field. And so like a lot of people, you could jump from like 12 seconds to 11 or 11 to 10, but once you pass about probably like the 10.3 range and 10.2 range, that's when your margin of improvement just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And a lot of people kind of look at it and they'll see me train for like 2 years just to drop 2 milliseconds. And so a lot of people don't really see that much of the point in it, but I see that as that's where I have to work even harder just to get those milliseconds down. Because my goal because everybody sees my 993 and they see obviously the U20 record, which is now it's only a 991. and they see it as seems like such like a close thing to get, but it's probably gonna take a lot more work and a lot more going out and giving 110% at practice and being really specific with what I'm doing outside of practice just to get those few little milliseconds just to go from a 9.9 to a 9.90 or a 9.8.
So you mentioned in your age group, you're that close and you're going to really work hard to get that. You know, I'm going to push it. Usain Bolt. He's retired, of course. You're 18. He was 22 when he made the world record. Do you think you could do it?
I think that in the way that I've been progressing and the way that I've always felt like when I'm on the track, I feel like God's always bringing me out there, and he's always a part of his plan that I'm out there and running the way that I am. So I feel that if in God's overall plan, if his plan is for me to break the world record, then you guys will be seeing me run faster than 9:58.
And it's interesting, you mentioned God. I was looking on your Instagram posts and all the things. They've gotten flashier now that you're with Puma and Oakley and you're with a new gym. You talk about God a lot. So what's up with that? Why? Excuse me. Why? Where does that come from?
I feel like that came from a faith that's been growing. Well, obviously introduced by my parents, but I feel like it's grown the further I've gotten in my sport, because there's a lot of times in the sport where there's not always ups. There can be a lot of downsides. Like, for example, my freshman year, I partially tore my patellar tendon, so I couldn't run for most of the track season. And so looking at it, I'm kind of just sitting there questioning, like, you know, why am I the one injured? Why am I the one that I hurt my knee on one of the seasons I could have ran my best? But that's when I kind of got closer in my faith, and I kind of just realized that, you know, God, everything happens for a reason. And there would be a lot of times where, you know, in races, I would be going into them because, you know, a lot of times I can have the times that I want, but if you throw a 17, 18-year-old kid into a race lined up next to Noah Lyles on your left, Christian Coleman over here, Fred Curley on this side, Kenny on this side, and then you hear Olympic champion, world champion, Olympic gold medalist, this and that. It can do a lot to your mentality, but I still remember this quote that was shared to me, and just always to, you know, just never to overthink, because if it's God's will, then it'll happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And if it's not God's will, then he has something even greater planned for you. So I carried that around through all of my track career, and my faith has just grown, and I feel like that I wouldn't be able to do this entire journey without him.
And I want to talk to you, both of you as parents, more about that. But you mentioned some names. You just threw some names out there. There are big names in track and field. They went to the Olympics in Paris. You qualified to go to the Olympics, but you weren't chosen. And the reasons given were, one, that you didn't have enough experience on that level stage. You ran high school stuff. And two, the sponsorship, like all of that comes along with it, and the nuances of you were planning on running in the 4x100, so it was a relay, so you were handing off. So all of those little nuances. We all thought, watching you, we were like, oh my gosh, it's going to the Olympics. We're going to be able to watch another local. What? He's not? That was my reaction, and I'm not even part of all this. What was your reaction like? There's no way you can't tell me you weren't like, ah!
Yeah, that was definitely one of those. It was one of those weeks. You're just kind of, you know, questioning a lot, because especially with me and my coach, we had felt like at that time that we had done basically all that we could from my perspective, what I was able to do as a high school senior. So I felt like I wasn't the happiest about it, but, you know, I kind of looked at it as just that same quote popping in my head, that if it's God's will, would it happen? And if it's not, he has something greater planned. So I looked at it, did my best to move on from it. But of course, I always felt that if I'm on the relay team and I'm easily coached. I've seen that from my 10 years of track. So I feel like if I'm on the relay team, that I can definitely make a huge impact. So I just kind of looked at it as well. I just use that as fuel to come back the next year and make sure that my spot on the global team isn't decided by anyone else but the time I put down.
And you did take the high road. On Instagram, you said, unfortunately, I wasn't chosen. Good luck to everyone who's going. And then the Olympics happened, and that relay team disqualified. And I'm picturing you in your room going, yeah, you see that? I should have been on there. But you didn't even come out publicly doing that. You, again, took the high road.
Yeah. He was actually more mature about it than the rest of us, to be honest. Like, I mean, I won't even say, how upset, his coach and I, and even his mom was. We probably can't even say it on camera. But, and I was just talking with his coach. And I just told him, I said, wow. I said, man, because he actually posted that on Instagram. That was all him. Like, this wasn't someone helping him or telling him what to say.
And that's what I thought. I said, somebody must be coaching him because he's 18. What 18-year-old says, that's okay. I don't mind.
He does his own post. Like, this was all from him. And I was like, wow. And I told his coach, I'm like, man, he was more mature about it than we were. Because we were ready to storm yeah.
We were like, if Christian feels that way, I guess we're okay.
You're like, I guess we need to act more mature too.
Right. Exactly.
And your coach, Ricky Fields, and he posted online as well. We are really disappointed, and understandably. But going back to how Christian seems to keep falling back on his faith, how did you begin instilling that in him? I remember growing up, we were in church Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday night, and then all of the kids would go for a Friday night hangout where we would complain about having to go so many times during the week. But so, and it turned out to be really great for me. And I rely on my faith a lot. So what did you do? Because parents do get their kids in church, and it doesn't always stick.
Right.
So what happened?
I think for us, we definitely, we weren't in church that much, but
That's a little crazy, but that's okay.
But we definitely were in church a lot, not as much as you, but I think for us it was just more having those conversations. When he was having a hard with our three of our kids, when they're going through something tough, something difficult, our first thing is always, pray about it, and it's always been an outlet for all of them. Now, Christian definitely wears his faith out on his sleeve, which is super, super impressive. But it's always been for us something that we've always, talked about, instilled, and it's always been something that stuck.
What would be the biggest advice points that you would give for parents? Number one, when it comes to sports, especially for parents, like I was not allowed to do sports in high school. So I'm like, hey, you want to do bobsledding? Come on, let's do it. Whatever they want to do. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But, so some parents have trouble holding back and, not and being on top of their kids all the time. Some don't encourage them as much as they should. But so what advice would you give to parents? Some kids are just not sports inclined. Do you make them try anyway at a young age just to try it out and have that experience? Do you not? What do you do? There's no book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the one advice I can give to parents, and from what I've learned, is definitely like to be patient. No college, no company is signing a kid at 12 years old. So, when you're out there with the kids, just enjoy the moment. Don't put as much pressure on them. Every child has to have time to develop. And that was the thing with Christian. I mean, for him, growing up, I mean, he lost a lot. He was never, like, a lot of times they probably look at him and they say, he was probably winning since he was 8 years old. He was probably one of those kids that would beat everybody, win everything all the time. He wasn't. I mean, it took him years. It took a lot of work. But I feel like you have to find something that your child is good at. I think that's the key. Some kids, I sort of knew that they would be good at sports because from when they were little, Tori used to laugh at me. She was like, because my daughter, when she first started to walk, I remember seeing her take off, and she ran so fast, through the house, cut the corner, and was gone. I said, she's gonna play sports. She's gonna be very good. She's like, how could you tell? I'm like, I've never seen a baby run that fast. That's what I told her. I was like, it's like, no way. And he was the same way. So I said, you know what? We're gonna try them in sport. But I mean, even if it's music, if they can play an instrument, they play a piano, just whatever it is, finding something that they're good at and encouraging them to, get better and do their best. I think that's the key.
Yeah. Be open to everything. Let them try whatever they want to try.
Because they also did. I know my oldest son. We encourage them to also, do music as well, right? Yeah. Because my wife, she plays the piano. And I also, I was in the band when I was in high school. So it just so happened that this is what he excelled in. Yeah.
And I have to ask, you played piano. Did you make your kids take piano lessons?
Well, I actually did piano lessons, but for the kids. It didn't stick. But that was okay because piano for me, it was, it's fun when you're growing up and then it gets to be a chore.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to be a chore for them. But whatever they tried, especially sports wise, like he mentioned lacrosse, it wasn't his favorite, but we were like, okay, so you're in it and do your best, give 100%.
Don't
and then
quit.
when it's done,
That's right.
then you don't have to do it again.
And
I'm
that's
sure
our big thing.
Did you want to drop out of lacrosse?
I don't think he ever wanted to.
No.
He loved running into people with the stick and running them out of bounds. He loved the physical part. He's just wait, am I supposed to catch this?
I liked it for the wrong reason.
He liked it for the wrong reason.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You were trying to go football on him and it was lacrosse.
Right. But I'm just go out there and have fun and do your best.
Yeah. You said a key word, college.
Mm-hmm.
When all of this happened with the Olympics, look at it. He's like, I know it's coming. When all this happened with the Olympics and you didn't go and, they mentioned not enough professional experience, you had promised to go to University of Georgia. It was posted. They were excited. You were excited. And then you said, you know what? I'm going to go pro. I'm not going to go to college. What was that conversation like with the University of Georgia? They were like, what?
I'd say the conversation with Coach Garrick, obviously I loved her as a coach. Ever since I visited, I knew that was the coach I would have wanted to be my college coach if I ever went. And I was kind of just talking to her, and there was a lot of consideration put into it. I had consulted with my parents, talked about it with my agent, coaches. I prayed about it a lot, and I ultimately felt like turning pro was the best option for me at that time. So when I called her, I was explaining everything, telling her about all of it. And of course, as a college coach who you thought someone was coming to school and they tell you you're not, obviously she wasn't the happiest about it. She was upset about it. But ultimately, she understood it because she had seen what I've done. She's seen what I've become as not just an athlete, but as a man. So she understood it, and she knew that my decision I was making was a good one, and she was supporting me through all of it. And so that conversation obviously wasn't the most uplifting one, but it was definitely a good one.
That's a tough conversation to have, especially at 18,
Right.
to figure out. Are you planning on going to college at any point in your life?
Well, actually,
I'm just curious, only because in my mind, just culturally, college has always been, especially for African Americans, like a big deal because there was a time when we couldn't go to school and, so.
We're laughing because I'll let him tell you.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
but so college, I was like, he's not going to college.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, and I was like, your body only lasts so long.
Right.
College is not going anywhere, so I get that. But do you think you will someday go to college?
So obviously with track, it's always strike while the iron's hot, and so when you turn pro, a lot of people see that when you're not going to the college, they obviously just always assume that if you're turning pro, you can't go to college. But what a lot of people don't know is that turning pro only gets rid of your NCAA eligibility.
Right.
And there's nothing that actually prevents you from attending a college just to study. And so right now I'm actually enrolled in online classes to continue to go for my degree while running pro.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He probably thought he wasn't going to college.
Oh wow! So you're taking online classes with who?
It's an online program at Liberty.
Okay.
At Liberty University.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's odd. Was that your idea or was that their idea?
I think online was more of that's what they more push out there, and I feel like just me deciding that I wanted to do it at Liberty was probably more on my part.
Okay.
Like his major and everything like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So do you think someday you will want to go back into it, or are you planning on, I know you're looking forward to the 2028 Olympics. Are you going to look forward to the Olympics 4 years after that? Because you're still in that age.
Yeah. I would say that obviously I'll be doing online courses to continue to help get my degree, and I'll be seeing how it goes all along through my track career. And, if everything, because right now I know my main focus is going through, of course, getting adjusted to being a pro athlete, because running in a high school national meet and running in Tokyo are a little bit different. But
Right.
I say just navigating through my pro career, I feel like being online is definitely one of the best options I have. If, I'm led to go back into school and actually attend the school, then I'll probably end up doing that. It just kind of depends on how my future lands and what career path I choose and things like that.
So then how does that work if you're not at a college which keeps track of scoring and it puts you in certain meets and this and that? So how are you able to weigh how well you're doing? Like, how does that translate when you're solo?
Well, when you're a professional, there's rankings.
Okay.
And that's what you sort of focus on, like trying to be in like the top 10 or top 12 in your particular event. So right now, I think he's ranked fairly low, but it's just because he hasn't had the opportunity to run in, A-class meets. So that's one of the main things he's going to be focusing on this year, is trying to get his rankings up so that he is able to get those invites to those high caliber meets, like the Diamond League meets that he speak of.
And the sponsorships came, did they call you? Did you call them? How does that work? How does that whole sponsorship thing work?
Well, it first started with me getting with my agent, who is now Mario Bassani, and it's almost like him having me as me having him as his agent is kind of like almost like inviting another member into the support system and the family and working through it. So they would usually, any company or anything like that would usually go to me through him. So I would kind of get a call or a text of, hey, so-and-so and so-and-so is saying this, this, and this. And so there would be a meeting to sit down and talk about, is this something we want to do? What does it come with? What does it not? How does it relate to, what you have and what you have going on through your pro season and things like that.
Okay. And looking ahead to the 2028 Olympics, going to be in Los Angeles, so you could stay in country. Are you going to focus on the 100? Are you going to focus on the 4x1? Or what is your goal for that?
It's a long time from now.
It is a lot. Is this too soon to ask?
I say right now, obviously, I focus on, well, a lot of people think my main focus is the 100, but I actually started as being a specialist in the 200.
Yeah.
It's funny because I wasn't 100 didn't always used to be my favorite event because it was just like a short race, so like, and I always didn't have the greatest start, so like I push out of the blocks and have 4 wrong steps and I'm automatically in the blast. So but then the 200 I would just naturally, I was going through it, I was running it well, going through it great and competing well, so I feel like last year I really excelled in the 100, but definitely this year I'll be getting back into that more of the 1 and the 2 range. I'll see where that takes me through the year.
All right.
So actually, his claim to fame, his coming out race, was his sophomore year in the 200. This was when he sort of like kind of shocked everyone, because that was when he won the state championship in the 200. He ran a 20.8. Now, I mean, if anyone knows, like, that's really fast for a 15-year-old. And I want to say the meet prior in regionals, what did you run? Like a 21.3, like whatever he ran, like whatever he ran, it was like there was no way he was running that for the finals. So, but in his mind, he knew he could go faster. And he told me, he said, the guy that actually beat him, the guy that he beat him in regionals and beat him by a good margin. Like, I would say, 10 meters? Yeah, like 10 meters. So, he told me, he said, you know what? He said, Dad, I think I can beat him. He said, I just think, I turned it on too quickly in the curve, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying to myself, because, I've watched track and field for years, and I'm saying to myself, yeah, right. But, I didn't say that. I was just like, okay, all right. I'm like, yeah, if you're going to beat him, all right, let's do this. But I'm saying to myself, he beat him by 10 meters. So for state, we're watching, and we're just saying to ourselves, okay, let him get a strong second.
Right.
And he comes around that curve, he hits a straightaway, and it was like the same thing happened. The guy started to pass him just like he did for regionals, and we're just watching like, okay. But then Christian started going with him, and he started getting closer and closer. And we're watching this, and we're like, oh my gosh. And then they crossed the finish line. And I mean, it was so close. Like, he ran 20.82,
Yeah.
and the guy ran a 20.84. But it was kind of one of those things where that's where everyone was like, whoa, what just happened? Like, who is this kid? Yeah, and he like kind of shocked everybody. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave it with this. Young people who are watching you, they're trying to get to where you are. What do you do in the gym? Some workout. What do you do? How many hours are you in there? What do you eat? What type of thing? How often do you hydrate? Tell me all of that, those secrets.
I say going in the gym is all focusing on being explosive. 'Cause a lot of lifting, a lot of people see a lot of different lifts to do, and I try to have all the lifts that I do somehow relate to what I'm doing on the track. So, like, for example, like if I'm doing a power clean, that's gonna directly relate to my start. If it's a squat or it's a deadlift or it's a bench, it's all working on just being explosive and getting those nervous systems tapped in. And then eating, you always want to make sure that I still remember when Coach Carroll first visited my house and she was talking about diet, and I don't quite remember what car she showed me, but she was saying how, for like a Lambo, you have to fill it with a certain type of gas.
Lamborghini.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And for a Pinto, you put a certain type of gas in there. So she was saying, with your diet, you don't want to put Pinto gas into a Lamborghini.
And what were you doing at the time?
I would probably say putting Pinto gas into a Lamborghini.
What?
Yes, right.
So you had to change the way you were eating. And to what? So now are you eating like mostly proteins, carbs? What are you doing?
I'd say I'm just staying away from lots of fats. There's a lot of aspects to it, but I feel like the biggest thing is always trying to get, a lot of protein is obviously important, and certain other food groups are a lot important as well, but trying to get those without tailing in so much fat is definitely important. Like, you can get 50 grams of protein, but then it can have like 20, 30 grams of a certain type of fat, like saturated fat, and then it's almost like you're helping yourself, but you're hurting yourself at the same time.
So, and the junk food, I'm telling my 14-year-old who keeps telling me she's going to LSU on a track scholarship, but she loves that junk food. How are you on junk food? Where are we there?
I will say that I definitely cut back on it a lot more, but if your daughter were to watch any of my interviews, tell her to ignore the question where they ask me, where's my favorite place to go after track meet?
And where was that?
That was Popeyes.
Yeah.
Why?
That's what you put in the pinto, right? That's what the coach
That's
told us.
Louisiana, you know.
Popeyes in the pinto.
That's okay. There's room for favorites, right? Little bit of wiggle room.
That's definitely my favorite after I run really good and go and get it. And I'm pretty sure he made to a point where I had to go sub 10 for me to actually.
That was his reward. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That was biggest inspiration. Is it a person? Who is the person that you look up to? The biggest inspiration for you? That comes from my daughter too.
I say from even when I was a young age, definitely watching Usain Bolt run was definitely one of those things that really stuck with me because, just the way he conducted himself on the track, he went into the mentality he has, and even though Lyles has that same mentality, he always goes to a race, he'll never question his ability to be able to win. No. He always goes in thinking, knowing that he will be able to come away and win the race. And I feel like that's a really strong mentality because I feel like it's a lot harder to run good when you have no clue what the outcome is going to be. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot harder to stay true to what you've been training to do and what you've practiced when you're questioning if you're even going to win the race. So I feel like having that mentality of you're going to be able to win a race, you're going to be able to do this and this is definitely important. And seeing about how strong he pushed himself, how much he did. He was talking about how, I forget the exact amount of time, but I'm pretty sure he said about he trained for probably almost 4 years just to run 9 seconds. And so that's this type of dedication in track that a lot of people have to have. And you're not going to always see the results right away. And that's another big thing. When you put in all the work and you go into a track meet and you don't run as good as you did before, it's hard to go out there and continue to give the same effort. But it's a lot of patience. It's a lot of, going out and keeping the same mentality no matter what happens, no matter what race you lose. And I feel like that is exactly how Usain Bolt was and how he conducted himself. So.
And I keep saying that was the last question. I got one more. I know we should have wrapped this up by now. I'm so sorry. You are that person for so many young people now. How does that feel? Do you feel the pressure of that? What is that like?
I say for me, knowing that a lot of people look up to me and a lot of people, look at me as one of the people that they see and motivate them to get better, that almost motivates me to continue doing what I'm doing. Because now it's not just, I'm doing this for my own personal gain. What I'm doing out on the track is helping so many other people, giving them the motivation and the want to go out there and put in that effort. And I feel like if just by me going out and putting in 110% effort to run my best makes another kid want to go out and chase his dreams, I feel like that's one of the most important things to me.
It's amazing. So mature. Pat, Tori, thank you so much for spending the time and sharing all those secrets.
Yeah.